something strange just happened in American television, and a lot of people are not buying the official story. Stephen Colbert, one of the most powerful voices in late-night TV, is suddenly out. No long goodbye, no emotional farewell tour, no slow transition. Just gone. And according to CBS, the reason is simple: financial decisions. That's it. But here's where things start to feel off. Because Colbert wasn't struggling. He wasn't losing relevance. In fact, he was still dominating ratings, still trending online, still pulling in millions of viewers every week. So the question everyone is quietly asking is this: how do you cancel a winning show? Unless there's something deeper going on. And then comes the bigger twist. Instead of replacing him with another strong voice, or even a new host, CBS is reportedly filling that space with content tied to Byron Allen, specifically his comedy format, Comics Unleashed. A show that feels safer, less political, less confrontational, less risky. And that's exactly why this decision is raising eyebrows across the country. Because for years, Colbert wasn't just a comedian. He was a critic, a commentator, a voice that didn't hold back, especially when it came to politics. From sharp monologues to direct jabs at powerful figures, Colbert built a reputation for saying what others wouldn't. And now, he's gone. So people are starting to connect the dots. Was this really about money? Or was it about something else entirely? Something bigger, quieter, and far more controversial? Because if a top-rated host can disappear this quickly, then maybe this isn't just about one show. Maybe it's about what kind of voices are allowed on television, and which ones aren't. And that's where the story gets even deeper. Now let's talk about the part no one at CBS is really explaining clearly: timing. Because in media, timing is everything. And the timing of Stephen Colbert's exit? It couldn't be more suspicious. We're heading into another intense political cycle in America. Tensions are rising, campaigns are heating up, and late-night shows, they become more than entertainment. They become influence. For years, Colbert has been one of the loudest voices shaping public conversation, especially when it comes to leaders like Donald Trump. His monologues didn't just make people laugh. They made headlines. They went viral. They sparked debates. They even angered powerful figures. So now people are asking a very uncomfortable question. Is it just coincidence that a strong political voice disappears right before things heat up again? Or is this a strategic move? Because replacing that voice with a lighter, less political format like Comics Unleashed changes everything. No more nightly political breakdowns. No more direct criticism. No more pressure on those in power, at least not in the same way. And if you look closely, this isn't just about entertainment anymore. It starts to feel like control. Control over tone, control over messaging, control over what millions of Americans see every night. Now, to be clear, no one has officially said politics played a role. There's no public statement confirming it. But sometimes what's not said speaks louder than what is. Because when a network removes a powerful voice and replaces it with something safer, people will always wonder, was that really just business? Or was it silence dressed up as a financial decision? And here's where things get even more uncomfortable, because this isn't the first time something like this has happened in American media. When voices become too influential, too opinionated, too difficult to control, they don't always get fired. They just disappear, quietly, rebranded as a financial decision. And if you look at what made Stephen Colbert so powerful, it wasn't just the jokes. It was consistency. Night after night, he showed up and said things many people were already thinking, but didn't have a platform to say. He challenged narratives. He questioned authority. He made politics feel personal to everyday viewers. And that kind of influence, it can be uncomfortable, especially for powerful institutions. Because late-night TV isn't just comedy anymore. It's culture. It shapes opinions. It influences younger audiences. It even impacts how people see elections, policies, and leaders. So when a voice like that suddenly disappears, people don't just see it as a cancellation. They see it as a shift away from bold commentary towards something more controlled, something more predictable. And that's where the debate starts dividing Americans. On one side, you have those who believe, hey, it's business. Shows come and go. Nothing lasts forever. But on the other side, you have people who believe something deeper is happening, that maybe, just maybe, networks are starting to avoid controversy altogether, that they'd rather play it safe than deal with backlash, pressure, or political tension. And if that's true, then what does that mean for the future of late-night TV? Will it become less about truth and more about comfort? Less about challenging power and more about avoiding it? Because if this trend continues, Stephen Colbert might not be the last voice to disappear. He might just be the first warning.
But let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Because this isn't just about one host or one network. This is about where television and media as a whole is heading. Over the past few years, something has quietly changed. Networks are becoming more careful, more cautious, more controlled. Controversy used to drive ratings. Now, it can destroy partnerships, trigger backlash, or even affect billion-dollar deals behind the scenes. And that's something most viewers never see. Because while you're watching a late-night monologue, there are executives, advertisers, and stakeholders watching something else entirely: risk. And someone like Stephen Colbert, he represents risk. Not because he isn't talented, but because he's unpredictable. He speaks freely. He pushes boundaries. He doesn't always play it safe. And in today's media environment, that can be dangerous, especially for a major network trying to protect its image, its advertisers, and its future. So when CBS says this decision is financial, they might not be lying, but they might not be telling the full story either. Because financial doesn't just mean money. It can also mean protecting investors, avoiding controversy, reducing pressure from powerful groups. And suddenly, the decision starts to make more sense, even if it doesn't feel right. Now, compare that to a show like Comics Unleashed. Simple format, stand-up comedy, no deep political dives, no nightly pressure to respond to breaking news. It's clean, it's safe, it's predictable, and most importantly, it doesn't create problems. So the real question becomes, did CBS replace Stephen Colbert because he was failing? Or because he was becoming too powerful in a way that made the network uncomfortable? Because if it's the second one, then this isn't just a cancellation. It's a message. And that message, it might be louder than anything Stephen Colbert ever said on his show. Because when a network makes a move like this, other networks are watching, other hosts are watching, even comedians are watching. And the signal it sends is simple. Push too far, and you might not last. Now think about that for a second. What happens when entertainers start holding back? When comedians begin to second-guess their jokes, not because they aren't funny, but because they might be too risky. That's when things start to change. Slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. The sharp edges of comedy get softened. The bold takes become watered down. And before you know it, what used to feel real starts to feel scripted, safe, controlled. And that's exactly what some viewers are afraid of right now. Because late-night TV used to be unpredictable. You never knew what would be said next. You never knew who would be called out. And that's what made it exciting. That's what made it powerful. But if networks start choosing safety over honesty, then that unpredictability disappears. And with it, a piece of what made late-night television matter in the first place. Now, of course, not everyone agrees with this. Some people believe this is just evolution, that audiences are changing, that attention spans are shorter, that comedy doesn't need to be political to be successful. And maybe that's true. But here's the problem. Stephen Colbert was already proving that you could do both. You could be funny and still be relevant. You could entertain and still challenge people to think. So if that formula was working, why walk away from it? Unless it wasn't the audience that had a problem. Maybe it was everything happening behind the scenes. Because behind the scenes, that's where the real story usually lives. Not on the screen, not in the press releases, but in the quiet decisions made in boardrooms, far away from the audience. Decisions influenced by pressure, by partnerships, by people whose names never appear in the credits. And this is where things get even more interesting. Because major networks like CBS don't just operate in isolation. They are connected to advertisers, to political climates, to corporate interests that go far beyond one TV show. So when a decision like this happens, it's rarely just one reason. It's layers. Layers of influence, layers of strategy, layers of things the public may never fully see. And sometimes, removing one voice can make everything else easier to manage. Fewer headlines, fewer controversies, fewer moments that force uncomfortable conversations. And for a network trying to stay stable in a constantly shifting world, that kind of control can be very appealing. But here's the danger. When decisions are made to avoid discomfort, you also risk losing authenticity. Because the moments that make people feel something, the moments that spark debate, the moments that challenge perspectives, are often the same moments that make content powerful. And without that, everything starts to feel the same. Predictable, forgettable. And that's exactly what many fans are worried about right now. That this isn't just about losing Stephen Colbert. It's about losing a certain kind of voice entirely. A voice that wasn't afraid.
A voice that didn't always play by the rules. A voice that made people laugh, but also made them think. And if that voice can be removed this easily, then the real question becomes, who's next?